Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to give everybody a minute or so to come on to the room. Those that have been here on the last couple of months will know we've had a bit of a problem with our chat box, but hopefully it's fixed. So if you can see Charlie and I and hear us all okay, just pop something in the chat box for us. Let us know that we're coming through. If for whatever reason the chat box isn't there, Q&A will be perfectly fine. But just let us know that you can hear us. There you go. Way the chat's working. So we've done what we need to do. So let me just get us ready to kick off. So we welcome to our App of the Month webinar with Spotlight Reporting this month. We are due to run for about 45 minutes, so we will be done for you by 11:15, let you on to get on with your day. But thank you for taking the time out and coming and joining us. I'm really looking forward to this session. It hits all of my sweet spots in terms of the importance of data, the importance of client conversations, and I know Charlie, who's joined me today, is going to have lots of insight to share with you all. So the topic today is all about guiding you to advisory, how firms can move into advisory with the right forecasting and reporting tools. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things around confidence, data, all the things you need to really make a difference to your clients. So in terms of introductions, those that don't know me, I am Will Farnell. I'm founder of Farnell Clark and co-founder of App Advisory Plus. We were one of the first 100% cloud practices globally back in 2009. So tech's played a really big part of our business growth. And I'm delighted to be joined by Charlie Williams from Spotlight today. Good morning, Charlie. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Will. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. Do you want to just give everybody a brief introduction to who you are, where you've come from, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Charlie Williams. I work for Spotlight Reporting. I've been working with accountants for the past few years regarding sort of software and SaaS. Part of my role in a previous field was helping practices digitize and looking at what the sort of digitization journey was with a lot of accountants. Is everything's going onto cloud, and accountants are now looking at more pushing into advisory services. So I left Sage about 9 months ago and saw the future was with advisory, and Spotlight was what I feel was the best reporting and forecasting tool out there. So I joined Spotlight and have had some great success with speaking with accountants and really helping build confidence and giving them the right tools to excel in this space, really.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Charlie. And I just want to check that people can hear me, because I've just had a message come through from somebody saying they can't hear me, but others have said we're okay. So I think we're good to carry on, but let me know if there is any problems, everybody. So what we're going to cover today, we've done some welcomes and introductions. We're going to talk in a moment about why advisory services are so important, how they can help you maximize your client relationships. Delivering for our clients is critical to everything that we do. And assuming that you want to do this stuff, which hopefully as you've joined us this morning, you do, then where do you start? So where's the start point? What are the things that are stopping you already doing this for your client base? Is it data? Is it confidence? Is it time? Is it a fear that your clients don't want it? Hopefully we're going to cover most of those things off for you today. So we're going to talk about how do you feel confident in having the conversations that I certainly think you should be with your clients. Charlie's going to spend about 15 minutes just showing you how Spotlight can help you with those conversations. And then hopefully we'll have some time for questions and things at the end. So that's the plan. So Charlie, do you want to tell us a bit about Spotlight? Where's Spotlight come from? I know they've been around a long time, one of the very early apps in the Xero ecosystem, but you'll know it better than me. So tell us a bit about Spotlight before we kick off.
Yeah, thank you. So Spotlight Reporting, you're correct, Will, has been going for over 10 years now. One of the first and the pioneers. We're sort of regarded as the Xero's #1 reporting tool. So if you go to their app store, we're one that they do recommend. It was started by an accountant, so it's built with accountants in mind. So Richard Francis, our boss, our CEO, he is very, very passionate about advisory, and he saw the future 10 years ago in what accountants should be doing for their clients. So we're based out of New Zealand, but we've got global coverage in lots of different countries. So we are spread all across the globe, and we work with we're the preferred choice to say the top 4 accounting firms in the globe. But we do work with a majority of different size practices. So anybody from a one-man band working out of a bedroom, and also, you know, some really big firms where they want to standardize, you know, a reporting and forecasting tool across multiple offices, for example. We do help a lot of big user sort of businesses, and these guys would have like an in-house CFO FD role. So it's just for them to produce real easy to understand management packs for things like boards and investors. And a lot of clients will use our forecasting tool to gain finance. So a lot of different people will use our tool for different processes, but majority is to understand the numbers, and really, you know, give a nice clear definition of how their business is performing, whether that be looking at cash flow or trying to get a reporting tool to, you know, get some cadence between their actuals and budget through the year. And with the forecasting tool, you can forecast up to 5 years in the future, and you can layer in up to 30 different scenarios. So a lot of clients will really look at the moment things like cost of sales increasing, and how is that going to affect us in, you know, year 1, year 2, year 3, and further. So Spotlight, we're not just obviously supplying a piece of software. We do have a lot of internal processes where we help guide the accountant through becoming a trusted advisor. So we've got Transform in Action, which is a great module. And we've also got customer success teams here in the UK that work on a one-to-one basis with the accountant to just help them nurture, you know, this process, because it is quite scary. And it is that leap of faith sometimes. So it's just helping them get through, you know, those initial hurdles, and just really help the accountant, really.
Right, and we're going to talk about that on the call today anyway. So let's start with kind of why advisory service is so important. And I think as a kickoff for this, I think COVID and the pandemic showed us firsthand why this is so important. I mean, for me in my firm, what was really interesting is perhaps for the first time ever, some of our junior members of staff were exposed to the realization that actually we have a bigger role to play than filing VAT returns and sets of accounts, because clients were ringing them and saying, how do I get furlough? How do I get a bounce back loan? I'm trying to get some borrowing, and I need management information. So it is kind of the first time that many of them were ever exposed to something that wasn't is my VAT return ready to be filed yet, which is kind of the questions that historically they might have got. And it's quite right that people could argue, yeah, but that was COVID, that was an exception, and it's gone. But actually, what we are likely to face in the next 12 months, I think, is going to make COVID pale into insignificance, because the benefit with COVID is that there was funding, there was support available. We're going into a cost of living crisis where, okay, there's a bit of help on energy bills, but that's not going to cut it. So our clients are going to need us more than ever. So I mean that's the start of the conversation from my perspective. But from where you are, Charlie, why are you seeing advisory being so important to accountants and bookkeepers?
So I mean, COVID has literally accelerated a lot of the relationships which would probably happen a bit further down the line. You know, the first thing the client did was ring the accountant and say, you know, how can you help me? Can you apply for this? Can you apply for that? So having that trusted advisor piece in there and building on that relationship is paramount. But you're right, Will, you know, moving forward, rather than it being very reactive, which was what COVID taught us, we want to be proactive now. We want to look at those longer term goals, those longer KPIs, those cost of sales constantly increasing, and what is it going to mean for the business moving forward, having to get them to adjust maybe their output in regards to you know, their sales revenues, or looking at expansion, or how we're going to get through the next 12 months. So being in the reporting and advisory space is really sort of drilling down into certain departments. How are they performing against certain budgets, and being able to tangibly have that information to then sit down with the accountant, sit down with the client and really understand their business a bit more effectively.
Yeah, and so much of this is about getting close to the client. And what was really interesting for me with the accounting firms that I work with, everybody was telling me during COVID, all my clients are telling me how appreciative they are of us at the moment. Our clients are really positive about what we're doing, and I kind of probed them into, well, what's changed. And actually, what has changed was the government were giving them ammunition. So every 2 weeks, the government were giving them something else to tell their clients about. So there was a direct correlation between the accountants talking to their clients more regularly and the clients being happy with the service that they delivered. So it's not rocket science here. It's like, so, okay, now the government stopped giving us ammunition in terms of feeding us stuff every 2 weeks for us to share with our clients. What can you do to make sure that you continue that dialogue? And obviously, I'm going to jump around our discussion points a little bit here, but we'll cover everything off. The point is that to get the best out of reporting tools, you need good quality data. Absolutely. And the big thing for me and my firm for a long time has been the fact that we're processing data for clients on a daily basis, which means in theory we're talking to our clients once a week. So we've already got that level of engagement, and clearly we're not perfect and we're not having all the conversations we should be. So I completely understand why we've got on the agenda here. Let's talk about kind of having the confidence to have those conversations. How do we help our teams understand how to start those conversations and believe enough in their own confidence to be able to kind of drive this stuff? But so I mean, you've obviously got lots of users using Spotlight. How are they doing that in terms of making sure they've got the data? I mean, are we not as unique as I thought in terms of processing data on a daily basis? What do you see in the real world?
So a lot of clients now are using things like Dext auto entry, so automated OCR technology to get the data in. You're right. The reporting is only going to be as good as the data, and if the data is not up to date, the reporting isn't going to work. If you've got a constant engagement with the client and you're constantly working with them on things like bookkeeping, you're naturally going to build a stronger relationship, because every week, like you said, or month, that you're having these, in-depth, valuable conversations. But it is, going from the old traditional Excel spreadsheet, very manual process, now moving away from that and going more automated. Obviously with cloud, there's so much more opportunity of getting the data in real time. I think in the future, this is sort of HMRC's vision, that they want data in real time and they want to start doing bookkeeping and everything else and compliance in real time. So it is just an evolution. We've literally gone from once a year now to quarterly, and it is literally going to be a monthly conversation between accountants and clients.
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about fairly regularly is that what we've also got to recognize is that with kind of generational shift and millennial and Gen Z business owners, there is definitely a mindset shift in terms of A, expectation, and B, also a willingness to say, actually, you know what, I want the work-life balance. Although I'm running a business, I don't want to do the things that somebody else can do better, more efficiently, more effectively. I want to focus on the things that are important to my business. So what we're seeing certainly is a willingness for clients to be prepared to spend more money to get things done that they don't really want to do. And let's face it, most people don't want to be bogged down in bookkeeping and so on. And the technology lets us deliver this stuff really cost effectively now. So there's clearly another big opportunity here in terms of capitalizing on that, but also a risk for people that are not putting in place those processes to enable them to deliver that data in the way that people want it. Are you kind of seeing that, and firms you're working with seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. There has definitely been a massive shift. And I think, like I said, sort of COVID has accelerated this. And businesses are adapting and changing and evolving. If you think many years ago, we used to go to the high street. Now everything's pretty much online. And this is why obviously retailers are sort of drop-in stores now. we do want everything instantly. I've got 3 daughters, you know, and they expect everything so quickly because that's the mentality of how they've grown up now.
Yeah.
And it's the same with businesses. You know, you need to sometimes react very instantly to fill a niche, or, you know, make sure that the direction of the business is going in the correct way.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need reports, you need tools to help you decide making those really big decisions around your company.
Yeah. And there's lots of talk about compliance versus advisory. We kind of hear it wherever we go, and I've kind of tongue in cheek over the years said that we almost want to do compliance for free because we want people to be paying for the value stuff, and the compliance is just a part of that. And there's conversation about, is compliance dead, and is it going to get completely automated? And my take on this is certainly that compliance is dead. Compliance is just changing. We've got to think differently about it.
Yep.
But it is being commoditized, which means prices are being driven down. So if we accept that that's happening, we've got to do something else to supplement that income. So I think compliance is the driver and the enabler to advisory. And we've talked about what advisory is and why it's so important. I've always said for me and my firm, we will be doing advisory when every client we've got picks up the phone and asks every question they've got. And it's kind of as simple as that for me. And you get that through relationship.
Yep.
So you get that through really getting close to your clients, really understanding what their challenges are, and being up front of mind in terms of when they have a decision to make. I think, I need some help here. Who am I going to call? It's like, who are you going to call? And what we hope is that it's going to be us as their accountants. And if we're front of mind, we will always be that person. And we have 3 options. We either answer the question on the spot, we say, yeah, we can help you with that, we'll send you a proposal, or that isn't something we can help with, but we know someone that can. And it's kind of that simple, isn't it? It's absolutely. Then what are the options for us to look at ways to do this, to maximize relationships we have with clients? But my guess is that everybody on the call is brought into the principle here, but to a point, like us, I mean, say we haven't cracked this either, and I think it's a really hard thing to do because it's such a big mindset shift. So if say, right, we want to do this, we know that we've got the compliance foundation, we want to deliver more for our clients, where do we start? So what's you guys obviously as Spotlight help firms do this and embed it, and customer success teams, what are the advice that you give to firms in terms of, right, you decided you want to do it, where do we start?
It all starts with the conversation with the client, you know, what value you can add to the client. And it's sometimes going outside of that sort of the financial information. So it could be non-financials, it could be the KPIs, it could be the sales metrics, it could be the things that drive the revenue streams. So with that sort of consultation piece, it's just adding on another layer. So they already come to you, like I said, for compliance, they already come to you for payroll. And some people use payroll as a loss leader to get the compliance. So you're sort of building up this sort of journey with each customer. Then when you get to, you know, how can we improve your business? How can we give the business owner the confidence to make the informed decisions, which is going to make a big difference to their business? And without the right tools, you can't back up those conversations. But if you've got all of the data in front of you in a way that you can digest it, but also the client digest it, you know, don't get me wrong, you could give them a P&L every month and just look at the variables, but they get lost in numbers. You know, it's not as easy as for them. You can decipher a P&L, where the client, it just goes like a misty gray. And I've seen customers, unfortunately, not understand how they're running their business. And it's a shame, because the sort of accountant loses a bit of traction with the client. The client then just thinks, oh, do you know what, I'll think about that another day. And they fail to implement anything on a timely fashion. All of a sudden, you know, you're sort of 6 to 12 months down the line, a whole year's passed, and their cash flow is depleted. You know, they haven't kept up with the cost of sales increasing. They don't know how to then mark up their product correctly. And this is the danger zone where, you know, unfortunately, clients will not survive, especially now, like you said, Will. I think COVID was a good indicator of what could happen in the world. Now we've got to really sort of have a look at what's going to happen in the future. Yeah,
and I was at Accountex last week, and I was on a panel discussion around failure to implement. And when we think about that term failure to implement, we often think about software, but it was broader than that. It was around process, it was around new ways of working, so all of this stuff. And what was really interesting is we kind of did a straw poll of the audience in terms of what are the things that stop you successfully implementing. Will come as no surprise to anybody, I'm sure, that the majority said it's time.
Yeah.
And time is finite, and we only have so much time. So actually my challenge back to the audience on that is that, well, it's not time, it's actually prioritization, because we've only got so much time anyway. So you've got to be really bold in terms of, this is a priority. We need to treat this piece of work as a project, so it has an end date, it has a timeline, it has a resource, and to enable us to deliver on those things. And clearly what you've said is fine. And I guess that there were people sitting there saying, yeah, it's okay, but kind of what do I say to the client? Having this whole idea about confidence and having confidence to have the conversations is probably the other, besides time. It's confidence, but it's also possibly mindset, in terms of what I see so often is, as accountants, and I was guilty of it. I use an analogy of a client I was working with, that we didn't put prices up for 8 years, fundamental flaw. But I talk about the fact that when I met the client, I sold them what I thought the client wanted. And guess what? That was accounts and VAT returns and tax return and payroll. We didn't even talk about anything else, because of course they came to me because they wanted accounting services. So we are guilty of creating these barriers for ourselves. And so much of that is around mindset. It's like when people say, oh yeah, my clients won't move to zero. It's like, well, have you ever asked them? Oh no, I just know they won't. But the point is, you've used the term trusted advisor, and apologies, I few people struggle with that term, as I'm sure you've heard before. But there is some truth in it. So our clients pay us to give them advice. And if they didn't trust what we said, they wouldn't pay us. So 95% of the time, if you say to a client, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, I think you should do this, because the client's going to say, hey, well, you know best, I'll do whatever you think. So often it's our own mindset that becomes the barrier to us making the changes that we should and can do. And COVID again showed us that we can do anything we want. Firms went from 100% office working to 100% remote working in a week. Imagine how long that would have taken if you were making that as a conscious strategic decision in a 5-partner accounting firm. It probably would never have happened. And if it did, it would be 3 years or whatever. But I mean, we have the knowledge, we have the expertise to have these conversations. From your experience, kind of what are you seeing in terms of people getting that level of confidence and so
on? It's working. So we work with our clients quite uniquely and individually. And I use so I met one of our clients at Accountex. So when I saw you there, Will, and we actually originally met at DAS, which is the digital accountancy show. She took a little while to get engaged with us, and she kept saying, I need to do this, but kept putting it off. And we extended her trial as well. And at Accountex, she came, she was so happy because she just won her biggest customer. And I was like, what was the shift? How did you go from being not confident at all, not even offering it to your customers, to now offering it as a standard? And she just said it purely was confidence. I believed what I was saying. I understood what I was saying. And I think that's the bit, is understanding how you're going to deliver the value. And it was more about looking at the customer, understanding what those key metrics are with the client, and then having a conversation around the metrics, because the revenue streams and everything is very important, but it's what drives those revenue streams and how we can make a difference to the business. And she was so happy that she now offers this as a standard. So whenever she approaches a client, yes, she talks about compliance, bookkeeping and payroll, but she also talks as a standard about advisory and what she can offer the client. And she said this was a differentiator between her. She was in competition with a local firm. She is a one-man band, and this firm was quite a large firm. And they chose her because they felt she understood the business a lot more effectively than a standard, just some standardization that they offer every client.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big change for her, that she now understands more effectively what the business needs, like you said, rather than just trying to fit them into any model.
Yeah, and it's a bit like the fear of public speaking. I mean, I often say to people that you don't need to kind of have that fear, because the likelihood is you're going to know more than the audience anyway. And it's the same thing here. It's like, we have the skills, we have the experience, we have the expertise. We've just got to make a conscious decision that this is what we want to do. And the common denominator I see in every accounting firm I work with is that everyone really cares about the client. So what we've got to do is put that front and center of the way we think, and see that this is an opportunity for us to do better by our clients. And framing it in that way makes it much easier to prioritize, because that's the point here, prioritize those conversations with clients. It's a great time for us, Charlie, to jump in, and perhaps you can show us a bit about how Spotlight can kind of tee up these conversations. And if anybody's got any questions, do pop them in a Q&A box, and I'll chuck those across to Charlie, or answer them myself if I can. So Charlie, you should be able to share your screen, so dive in, and I'll hand over to you for kind of 15 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up ahead of 11:15.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to share my screen, so please let me know when that logs in.
That's all good.
Brilliant. So when you log into Spotlight, it is a cloud-based system, so it's really easy to access from any location. These are all ones that have already been pre-built. This is our demo account, but when you come into the homepage, you've got your reporting tool. We color this in blue. You've got forecasting, which is in green, and you've also got dashboards. The dashboard product is like a one-page report. A lot of clients use this if they have quarterly reports, but they want to keep the client up to date every month. But you do get all 3 modules within a subscription. So you can use the reporting, forecasting, and the dashboard tool as well. We do have something called Multi. Multi is more for franchise models and also not-for-profits. So it does cover every aspect of any client.
Does that let you do general consolidation and things as well, Charlie?
So with the reporting, yeah, you can do group consolidation, and you can actually do it in multi-currency as well. So a lot of entities now obviously are trading in different currencies, and it's done on the end of the transaction date with the exchange rates as well. So it's very on point. So I'm just going to jump into the reporting tool. I did actually build one for this demo. So this is a bit of here's one I prepared earlier, but it's purely because, Will, you've given me 15 minutes, so I didn't want to labor building the report.
And of course, we will be providing links for anybody that wants to get a proper full-on demo. Charlie did mention that if you looked at forecasting, it would take a little bit longer.
Yeah, of course. So with building like the demo unique to the client, we do like to have like an hour. I mean, we can do it in sort of half an hour, but sorry, my internet's gone very, very slow. I said this to Will when I started.
Live demos.
It's half term. Yeah, it's always a live demo, but it's half term, and I think all the children have jumped on the Wi-Fi. So when you first come into the page, the first thing you need to do is actually link in your data source. So I'm going to use Zero Data here, but we do work with QuickBooks, and that's desktop and cloud. We've got MYOB. We do Sage 50 as well. We're one of the unique ones that Sage 50 we can work with very effectively. You can import in via Excel, so that could be non-financial information, as well as if you had, say, your budget in Excel, but your actuals in Xero or QuickBooks or Sage. So there's lots of data sources we can use, but I am just going to use at the moment, Xero and QuickBooks. So when you come into updating your actual information, you can include things like tracking categories. This is really important for clients that have things like departments. And if you've got budgets allocated to that department as well, that is something that a lot of clients want to drill down and really get granular with actuals versus budget. This process takes about 45 seconds, so it's not too long of a process, but it just updates the information. I have attached Google Analytics here as well, so I'll go into that on the tiles. Once you've brought the data in, you go into your sort of what we call the triage stage, where you have a look at what data's come across. It'll bring in your chart of accounts like your revenue, cost of sales, expenses, asset, your bank. right through to liabilities and equity. The only one it won't pull across from zero is your KPIs, targets, and non-financial information. You can go in here and build these accounts. So I've done this on a rough estimate of like sort of certain accounts, but you can personalize this and completely customize it. Same with the non-financial information. We have pre-built a lot of these categories. So things like NPS scores, sales targets. You can just add these very manually, or you can import these in via Excel as well. So once you've pulled your data across, we go into building the report, which is a customized layout. And as this just comes across. Sorry, my internet has gone very, very slow. I always call this the demo curse because it always works absolutely fine.
Always the way.
It's always the way.
So while you're doing that, there was a question came in Holly's in the background and already answered it. So it was a question around how is support provided? Is it email or telephone? And Holly has replied to say we offer support by both email, but also able to raise support tickets in software. Support's 24/7. You also assigned an account manager who will be available to support both on email and telephone. So thanks for answering that in the background, Holly.
Fantastic.
Has that given you time? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it did. It loaded up. It is just very slow, my internet, so I'm going to apologize in advance for this one. So when we come to build the first report, we look at using a template. We have got industry specific templates. So if you did have clients in the agricultural industry, e-commerce, hospitality, manufacturing, not-for-profits, professional service, real estate, and SaaS, you can build these bespokely, and I'll show you how you can just quickly add pages in. But I've actually built my template already and used App Advisory as my template report. So if you do have certain industries that aren't mentioned on our templates, and you can start building out specifics in industry, or you can have them personally to each business. You can completely design the cover page, so you can put background pictures, logos, and you can completely white paper this if it was just something you wanted to use straight away for your clients. The table of contents updates automatically, so if you had a Zoom call and you needed to move certain tiles around to get a certain flow of the presentation, then it does this automatically for you. One of the big questions I get is they don't do enough narrative in the executive summary because they feel like it takes a long time. They generally use an Excel and a Word document. So I'll show you a quick and easy way of creating a really in-depth executive summary. We have just launched something called custom tags. So within the tags here, I can bring in, say, assets for the month, and then it will bring in that data across straight away. If you wanted to, sorry, it's not letting me do it now. I'm just going to delete that out. If you wanted to use what we call auto text as well, you can bring in auto text for certain streams. So if you wanted to say this month versus your budget, this month versus last month, and you can really start building out a decent amount of narrative really, really easily. And it will pull all the figures across. It will do it in percentages and value. And once you've saved this template every month, once you've imported the data, it will refresh. So it'll be the net profit for October rather than September, and do your comparisons as well. So this way you've got lots of different topics you can add in. So as you've got assets, CapEx, your cash, gross profit, market conditions, there's lots and lots of sort of bespoke areas where you can start building it out exclusively for the client. You might want to update things like market conditions. So that is something that you can do just as free text if you need to, just adding in certain free text around the executive summary. But it's quite nice that there's a lot of areas where you can completely bespoke it to each customer.
And this is where the opportunity is to add that real value, isn't it, in the narrative around this stuff, the observations, and with all the fear of kind of technology automating everything, the bit that's never going to be replaced is that human interaction, that human slant that we can provide on this, and that provides a great opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And it's the same with things like action plans. I've had quite a few clients using the action plan recently where they want to build like a roadmap with the client. They want them to engage. So every month we're updating something with the journey of the business. And it is just as simple as just building some conversation pieces so they have something to engage when they come back. So this is something that's been really important recently to a lot of clients. Yes, we always want to talk about the figures. So with things like tracking data, we've got the chart of accounts for the profit and loss, but really being able to drill down into the tracking P&L, looking at certain departments, comparing things like actuals versus budget on department level, looking at their performance against last year, for example, and then maybe sort of current months. But it's really simple to change things like customizing columns. So if I just wanted to have my actuals versus last year, I can then do a bi-monthly or quarterly updates in regards to the comparisons. So it's really, really simple to get into the tool and personalize it to each customer and how they're going to relate to looking at their numbers as well. If I go back to the main page, we've got cash flow is key, and it is the lifeblood of any business. So looking at the cash flow in quite detail, and it pulls all the relevant information. So we've got a profiling tool, we've got the cash flow statement, and we've also got a cash flow analysis tool. So again, it can really deep dive into the certain segments of what makes up their cash flow, where the cash flow is going, and you can filter it as well. So it just looks at the key components and the lifeblood of the business, how it is actually affecting what they're currently doing. And then also things like the KPI scorecard. So a lot of businesses do work on sort of key metrics, and then understanding those numbers. So if it's a lead generated sales business, or it's customer service company, or even down to, with agricultural, they need to work on certain metrics to be able to produce a profit. So whatever the client needs, and this is where you really need to understand what the client's key differentiators are about things like revenue streams, is how you can then deliver that value by giving that guidance and advice to the customer. I'm not saying we need to be...
And sorry, Charlie, and again, that point about understanding the customer, I mean, we talk about KYC in the financial services world, and actually we need to do much more KYC in terms of really understanding the business owner and the business in terms of what are the objectives, what are the things that they're striving to do, so that we can understand their business at a level that we can deliver this kind of insight.
Absolutely. And having this type of data in front of you that's easy to look at, easy to allow the client to understand those conversations that you're having with them. And they could be quite visual, so they might want to see lots of charts and graphs, because they understand things like, where is their top revenue coming from, what's the efficiency of the GP, what's our revenue against operating profit, what cash we do have in hand. Lots of these things make up those conversations, and it just depends on that audience as well. I'm very visual, I'll admit, I like seeing lots of visual impacts, so I can look at things like trend lines, and I can understand the direction of travel of the business. And until sometimes they see that direction of travel, they won't sort of absorb it very well. So this is where, depending on what the client needs to understand his numbers, you can then personalize the whole report around them.
Yeah, a couple of questions here, Charlie. So firstly, can our clients enter data themselves, e.g. sales, salary projections, so they can see updated forecasts in real time, or are they better to use an Excel spreadsheet, which I can upload once a month for management accounts? I
mean, you can do both. You can give the client access to their specific account. The only danger zone on that, I suppose, is if they start making a lot of mistakes, and then you're having to go over and... it was sort of, I've had this before with clients when they used to do their own bookkeeping, for example, and then you go in and try and find out what nominal codes and tax codes they've been using. So if they can get the data to you and it is on Excel, you can import all that data in via Excel. So if there's non-financial information, or if they're exporting out of POS systems, or, if they sell online, e-commerce platforms, that type of thing. So I would always advise, have the data given to you and then you can import it, but they can have access.
Perfect. And the second one, on a pricing question, I only have half a dozen clients as a virtual FD. Is there a price point for less than 20 clients?
Yes, absolutely. So we do a business direct, which is more aimed at the end user. And sometimes accountants will start individually adding them. So the first client you can add on and then grow it individually. If you get to a point of around 10 clients, it's more cost effective to go onto an advisory package.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, back to you to wrap up the demo here, Charlie.
Yeah, of course. I'm just trying to keep it very short and sweet. There's lots of areas where we can add value. So just to add certain pages into the platform is very, very simple. So if I wanted to add in things like Google Analytics, for example, is a case the data's already in the system. I'll just add this in after the chart gallery. And this is, again, where you can have those conversations around if they're spending money on advertising, especially if it's like Google AdWords or Facebook, Instagram. There's a lot of these areas where you can start spending money, and you need to look at and see how effective that money, that ROI is. So this is just, again, a tile that you can add a lot of value to the client, looking at things like their monthly unique visits. Are they brand new customers? They're reoccurring customers? How long they're spending on the site? Where are our popular pages? Where's our lead source coming from? So, you don't have to be a marketing expert to go through this, but it just shows that you're, really engaging with the client. You're trying to see where we can add that value. And obviously, if they are spending lots of money online and they're not getting the results, why is that? It might be a case that you say, well, maybe you need to go and speak to a marketing team. But again, you're given the right type of guidance to then go and speak to, different companies to help you.
Yeah, perfect.
So once you've built your report and the report's all fully done, it is a case you can just go and preview it, have a look at the report itself. And then you've got the option of, like I said, changing the pictures and the logos to make sure it's white labeled. It's a very clean way of delivering a report. So once you're happy with the preview and you've decided this is exactly what you want for the client, you've then got the option to email it across, present it online. So if you were doing a lot of Zoom calls or Teams calls, you can download it as a PDF and then send it on to the client. You can then publish the report so that no one can upload new data into it. So if you've got lots of different people using Spotlight within the practice, they're not going to override anything that you've previously done. You can add certain users that can only see certain reports as well. So if you've got a set of junior accountants as well as senior partners, then you can work on individual accounts as well.
Perfect.
I mean, what I'd like to do is, obviously, anybody that is interested, we would do a one-to-one demo, have it a lot more personalized and understand a bit more about their clients and how we can add the value with them. So if it is a case that you'd want a one-to-one demo, there is a link at the end and we can go through it on a proper presentation.
Perfect. And expand into forecasting, which we haven't covered here, but it's a key part of the proposition, isn't it, Charlie?
Absolutely. So the idea is understanding the numbers with the reporting and using that against the actuals and budget. The forecasting tool, there's a lot more moving parts to it. I don't have enough time to go through the forecasting tool, but with the demo, if you are interested, then we can obviously go through that in a bit more detail. But the forecasting, you've got up to 30 different scenarios. You can forecast 5 years into the future. And it's a real, with things like scenario planning, you would have your sort of cadence where you roll in forecast and then layer on these scenarios on top to look at, things like increase of cost of sales, looking at how we're going to get from 1 million to 1.5 million, for example. What do we need to do? Do we need to up our revenue? Do we need to up our ROI on certain product sets? So
yeah, there's a couple of kind of very specific questions around forecasting here. Maybe we can answer them. If not, then clearly it's one to pick up with Charlie. But the first one is, how is revenue cash flow estimated? Is it an automated forecast, or can it be based on the timing of actual forecast sales receipts?
Yep, that's correct. So it is all about timing. So we do have a module as well where you can set certain rulings up. So you could have like a 30, 60, 90. So if there's staggered payments. But yeah, you would adjust either by percentage per month, or you could actually do it by date. So it's not automated. I know some forecasting systems won't let you set the parameters of certain payments as well.
Okay. the second one, are both target and forecast data held, and can all reports be run to show actuals forecast against target? If you follow that.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, you can set certain KPIs to adjust the forecast. So I don't know if that would answer the question, but if we can
hook up and get a demo, and you can go through and show all of that, can't we? So that's the way to tackle that for sure. So we can get that organized for everybody. So we are almost at 11:15. I do my absolute utmost to make sure we finish on time. So a couple of takeaways for everybody here that really are the key things that hopefully we've covered across. So firstly, focus on building up-to-date and regular data for your clients. If you get that data, you can have these conversations. On the back of this, consider what you can do now to implement advisory in the future, because it's not something you can immediately switch on. You've got to prepare for it. You've got to make sure that the data is there. You've got to be comfortable with the conversations you're having. You've got to have decided on tools you're going to use, but use the opportunity to tap up Charlie for some one-to-one demos, so you can actually see what the software can do. And that demo can be tailored to what your clients might want. We didn't touch on dashboards. Dashboards are a great way to send a once a year pictorial kind of view of the numbers with your annual accounts. It's a great way to just get clients starting to think about visualizing their data in different ways. And this third point is really about a validation to all of you that we have the skills, we've got the knowledge. That means we can be confident in having these advisory conversations. We know more than the clients here. We understand what we're looking at in terms of the data. Let's get the data in a format. Let's create the time to have those conversations with clients to help them run better businesses. And finally, recognize the value you can add to a client. I mean, this is the point here that we saw it with COVID. We've got cost of living crisis around the corner. There is massive impact we can have on the lives of our clients. And at the same time, we can monetize this within your firm in terms of new revenue opportunities. Anything to add on that one, Charlie? Anything there?
No, I mean, it is all about monetizing this as well, and not looking at it as a cost to the practice, as looking at it at a service level you can really offer clients. And when they see the value in it, the cost doesn't, it's not even a part of the conversation. It's to do with what value we can add. With regards of obviously booking a demo with us, we do offer a free 28-day free trial as well. So you can use our system. There's no caveat to it. You can produce as many reports as you want. And we do have a special offer as well, Will, which we can talk about. So we do offer 25% off for the first 3 months if they like to sign up to Spotlight on an advisory package. So if they'd like to get in touch, we can obviously book the demo and do it on a one-to-one basis with them.
Excellent. And we will circulate the link here with a recording to everybody, hopefully this afternoon. But Charlie and Guthrie cover the north and south. So Charlie covers the north of England, Guthrie covers the south. But fill your details in on the website, and it will be directed to the right person. You really need to kind of book these demos to really understand how this can work in practice for you. But we will circulate the link. Thank you very much for everybody for staying the course with us. One question has come up here. What about the US? Do you have people based in the US, Charlie?
Yes, we do. Yes, we've got a team over in the US and Canada as well. So yeah, we can work with any country. If you look at our currencies as well, a lot of people consolidate into US currency as well.
Yeah,
and group consolidation.
Excellent. So 3 minutes over. Apologies for that, everybody, but hope it was worth hanging around for. Thank you for joining us on the webinar today. Thank you for Charlie and the team at Spotlight for their help in putting this together. And hopefully we will see all of you on our App of the Month webinar in November. But thanks again. Look out for your email and book those demos with Charlie to see what Spotlight can do in your practice. Charlie, thanks so much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thanks very much. Take care.